30 seconds and counting. The guidance system will go internal at the 17-second mark. Now 25 seconds. We have complete clearance to launch. We are go. 20. We'll go on internal power with the vehicle. We now get indications from our status board that all is still going well. Second stage tanks are pressurized as our countdown continues. The vehicle now on the battery power on the vehicle, and all is still going well. The astronauts are go launch vehicle.
Good afternoon and welcome to The Angry Astronaut. Good evening to all of my viewers in Europe. Good morning to the majority of America, and good very early morning to my viewers in the Pacific Rim. Thank you very much for joining me. We have sort of a unique show coming to you today, and the reason that it's unique is we have a live stream that's going to be immediately followed by a premiere video. I won't be present for the as in live during the premiere, but it's going to be rolled out 5 minutes after the live stream concludes, and that's to talk about the new Blue Origin innovation. And this, I think, is going to come as a shock to a lot of people that I'm going to be speaking enthusiastically and positively about Blue Origin and Jeff Bezos, for that matter, when it comes to anything. But that's exactly what I'm going to be doing, because I am very, very impressed with the new innovation that they just announced that they've apparently been working on for the last 2 years and have come close to perfecting. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. First of all, where is everybody watching from? We always do that sort of start off with that. And we are, of course, going to be discussing Boca Chica. We're going to be doing that a lot in the live streams here in the near future. There's going to be stuff to update you on every week. And it's of course, the big orbital launch moment is coming up very soon. So as a result, this is something we should definitely be talking about all the time on this channel. So I'm super happy about that. SoCal, hello. Hamburg, Derby, Finland, thank you so much for checking in. Indiana, Austin, Texas, Dallas, Statesville, Devon, hello Devon, Indianapolis, Michigan, North Carolina, Orlando, East Palestine, I believe is East Palestine, which if that is indeed the case, we're here with you in the midst of the difficult things you're going through. Scotland, Cambridge, Leeds, Missouri, Montreal, Seattle, Taunton, Serbia, hello Serbia, Brisbane, Australia, Queensland, Australia, thanks for tuning in so early, New York City, my son's favorite city in the world, Poland, Cornwall, UK, Chicago, Alton, UK, Yorkshire, hello Yorkshire, also one of my favorite places in the world. Boy, we have a lot of people tuned in today. And also just a quick reminder to everybody to please subscribe. We've added almost 400 new subscribers. Anton Nim, thank you so much for that super chat you just threw on there today. Let me tell you, that's going towards everything that's happening right now, my ability to return to Boca Chica and also to cover the other launches that are going to be happening soon, because frankly, things have been very difficult with Google and Google adverts and all that. Last month was my worst month in over 2 years. And that was with all kinds of super chat help in January, and yet still it was my worst month in over 2 years. It's just a bad time for Google to be doing this to us creators, but that is indeed what they're doing, cutting back on ad revenues. Catalonia, Rochester, New York, Mississippi, hello. Thank you so much for being a part of the crowd today. The Czech Republic, I believe, if that is correct, or I don't think it's Chechnya. So yeah, big stuff coming, obviously. Well over 200 people tuned in now. Thank you very much for joining me today. So yeah, big stuff coming, without question, in Boca Chica. So what exactly is happening? What is going to be coming up here soon? Well, one thing I learned while I was in Texas, or one thing, the impression that I took away was the fact that none of us really know what SpaceX is up to. And I would say there's probably quite a number of their engineers that don't even really know all of their plans. Thank you so much, Laura, and thank you so much, Papsu, for your support. I deeply appreciate that. And like I say, it makes a huge difference to the channel, what you're doing right now. So, as a result, I heard lots of different theories, lots of different stories, lots of different people giving lots of different impressions. Also, there are many, many people who were camped out there that really didn't even know the basics of what was going on. They were just mostly camped there to experience what was happening, and wanted to know more. I was happy to share that with them, but we had some of that as well. So, one thing I think that all of us should keep in mind when we're talking about what we can expect from SpaceX, it wasn't that long ago that we were all very convinced that Booster 4 and Ship 20, S-20, were the anointed vessels who were going to go to orbit. B4 was the booster, S-20 was the ship that was going up, and that obviously is not the case. B4 and S-20 are both retired to the rocket garden. And again, this kind of should demonstrate to us, or make it very clear, that SpaceX doesn't care about individual rockets, and they don't have this sort of attachment to them, like this is S-20 or this is S-24, this is the one we've chosen, and damn it, this is the one we're going to send to orbit because we decided to do it. SpaceX doesn't operate like that. If they find a way to improve what they're working on, then that's what they're going to use as the new and improved model. Kim, thank you so much for the $10 support. Really, really do appreciate that. And once again, to be clear, this video, as you can see in the title, is not about SpaceX, or not about Blue Origin, rather. The Blue Origin video comes out at 1:35 Eastern Standard Time immediately after this live stream concludes. So once again, to reiterate, this live stream is about Boca Chica, and then I'm following immediately with a premiere video about the Blue Origin innovation, the Blue Alchemist innovation. Not sure if this is the best way to do it, but I just kind of wanted to get an audience involved with one video and then kind of seamlessly transition you to the next. And we're actually going to have a link that will make it easy for you to do this. So
just sit tight after the show. It should migrate them over to the Premiere automatically.
So you'll be migrated over to the Premiere video automatically once this live stream concludes. So once again, to get back to what's happening in Boca, there's a lot of theories and a lot of ideas that have come to mind, in the time that I spent observing things. S-24, once again, I've said this many times and I may be wrong, but I don't think S-24 is headed to orbit. I really don't. They've had many, many opportunities lately to store S-24 in much more secure locations, and it hasn't moved from the rocket garden even now. And the last night that I was in Boca, I actually stopped over at the rocket garden, got out of the car, and I noticed that there wasn't even a complete fence around the rocket garden. And if I wanted to, I could have strolled right over to, there was no people, there were some workers, way down the rocket garden at the other end, could have easily strolled over, disconnected those hoses from the ship or hacked them up with a machete or something like that, and sabotaged everything that they were doing. Not that anybody would really want to do that, but there are certain environmental activists, I think, that would have been happy to do that. And in my view, I think that it's just kind of a needless risk to subject your, orbital ship going that. Alan, Raptor 2 proven and reliable enough for a successful orbital launch. I would say so, unless something happened during the static fire that we don't know about. If something went wrong during that static fire and we're not sure what happened with that, then there could be more testing still required. I kind of doubt it. I think things went pretty well and well enough to attempt at least some sort of flight. May not be an orbital flight right off the bat, but it's interesting to see. N1 exhaust plume was twice the length of the rocket, or 650-foot flame. Now that's another good point. Yeah, once those engines are turned up to full power, that's going to be a lot of fire going in a lot of directions. From the launch pad. I think there's going to be a lot of things developing, with this orbital launch that are going to be a bit risky, that are going to be problematic, and are going to be a little bit scary, to be honest. I'm going to be both excited and nervous to watch this thing take off. I think it's going to be amazing and huge for the future of space flight and beyond, exciting, but at the same time, there's a lot of unknowns and also historical precedents for things going wrong, not only with N1, but also NASA had protocols built into place as to what might cause a Saturn V anomaly on the pad. It never happened, obviously, but they had a lot of things that could make it happen. A single engine, for example, failing on the pad, one of the 5 F1s, could have created an asymmetrical thrust and pushing the rocket into the launch tower. That was one scenario that was explored. If the Saturn V were to collide with the launch tower, that would have been a cataclysmic explosion. And if something like that happens with Starship, something very similar to that is also going to happen there. Once again, I don't think that's likely. I think that SpaceX has demonstrated that the Raptor 2 is a solid, reliable engine, but they had a couple shutdowns during that static fire. And if during a longer burn and a more powerful burn, they lost several engines simultaneously on one side of the rocket, again creating asymmetrical thrust. In theory, the thing could end up sailing into the mobile launch tower, which again would be pretty cataclysmic. But then again, I don't think that's very likely. I think it's much more likely that at least it's going to be able to get off the ground and clear the tower. Tank farm partially enveloped and flamed to the 50%. Yeah, all of these things are, a little, the dance floor. They just added a platform into the main tower. Thanks. Once again, a lot of the small details that a lot of the tank watchers have, or that, the information that they get about all of this, I certainly don't. I tend to look at big pictures rather than details. And so therefore I can, miss a lot of insight sometimes on some of these vehicles. But, again, from the big picture standpoint, I feel that SpaceX is far more likely to launch a pairing of vehicles, a stack of vehicles that are the most likely to succeed. And I don't believe that, given everything that B7 and S24 have been through, and there may have been other things that they've been through since, during the testing process that we don't know about, that could make them more problematic for a full-fledged orbital launch. And again, if anything serious happens, if we're talking a pad anomaly or an air burst just over the pad or something, it's going to result at the very least a cataclysmic conflagration that will envelop the whole area and probably start some pretty nasty fires. At the very least, maybe even blow up the tank farm. SpaceX doesn't want to risk that. SpaceX is not stupid. So they're going to launch the vehicles that are the most likely to be successful, the most modern, the ones that have the best modifications, the best improvements. And in my opinion, those are vehicles that come after S24. Now, they might still use S24 for something. Remember, they still have it hooked up to tanks that are maintaining the pressure on the vehicle. So I think that they very well may have some ideas to use it for something. But their first orbital flight, I don't think so. Now, there are, some other ideas, some other theories. Did I spot any wild Raptors? No, I did not actually. About proving the Raptor 2 engines, Mike, I think you're right there. Actually, let's prove those engines because they haven't been proven, right? I mean, the Raptor 1s are the engines that took the SN9, SN8, SN15. Those flights were supported by Raptor 1, not by Raptor 2. So, obviously these engines still have to be proven. They still have not yet flown. All of that is very important. So, in terms of what these future ships are intended to do, we have S-25, of course, sitting out on the pad. Not much has been done to S-25. There is, however, a full-fledged road closure scheduled for tomorrow. Indicates they may be moving something. It is possible. I'm just going to put out a prediction there. And once again, this isn't based on anything except a hunch that they may be moving S-25. They may take it back. Now, that's, we can't say that for certain, but it has carried out a lot of what it needs to. It's had pressure tests, it's had static fires, etc. Actually, S-25, no, actually, there still are things to be done there. So, yeah, once again, every time I think more about this, more things come to mind. Also, it is very interesting to note that the so-called expendable starships, S-26, S-27, are coming out right now prior to the orbital launch. Why? Why are these radically different ships, no flaps, no fins, why are those coming out right now prior to the launch? It's very interesting. Roberta, thank you so much for the $10 Canadian. Hello back to Vancouver, by the way. One of my daughter's favorite places in the world. She loves Vancouver. So yeah. And by the way, thanks again so much for the support. It makes a huge difference to my channel, especially right now with Google adverts the way they are. You guys make a huge difference to me, and thank you so much for that. So why is S-26 and S-27? Why are they coming out at this particular moment when the focus should be on ships that have the ability to re-enter the atmosphere? Well, it could be, and once again, this is just a theory. It could be that they're going with a more bare bones, stripped down Starship for the first orbital launch attempt. And here's what I mean by that. Flaps and fins add aerodynamic uncertainties to a rocket. Now, I think they'll probably be just fine, but it's far more simple if you launch a bullet into space as opposed to something with flaps and fins. So S-26, S-27 seem to fit that bullet configuration. Now, maybe those are prototype lunar starships. That would make sense because lunar starship is going to fit that description. Also, perhaps they are some sort of refueling depot prototype. That would also make sense. If you're launching a refueling depot into orbit, you don't need flaps, you don't need fins. It's not going to come back down. Perhaps they want to do that with one of their first launches. Stephen, thank you so much. And I will be back in Boca for the launch. Unless something really disastrous happens in my life, I will unquestionably be back. I already have a hotel reservation set up for the 11th of March. And it's just because the placeholder date was put there. I'm not sure if the launch is actually supposed to happen around that time frame. But if it is, I'm ready to go. And if it doesn't happen there, it'll be easy to change it. And once again, all this happened because of you guys. You guys are the ones who made it possible. I certainly wasn't in a position after my trip to Boca to reserve hotel rooms during spring break, and you guys made that possible. Thank you so much for that. So I definitely will be back to cover that. At the 14-engine long duration static fire, the Raptors are pushed at much more than 50% because it's much more noisy. I agree with you, Renee. I think that they were pushed much more to their limit. Not only were they louder, they also threw debris a considerable distance. So I think they were cranked up a bit more. What would make me not angry, says John? What would make me not angry is a big increase to NASA's budget. I'd be thrilled with that. I don't think NASA gets nearly enough of a budget given the importance of what they do. And I don't think the B9 with S-26 would be better as a first launch as SpaceX needs a good launch. Yes, Barney, that's exactly what I think. Now, am I right? I don't know. But that is my my first instinct is that we might have B9 go up with S26 or maybe S27. A simple, bare bones, stripped down Starship, very simple aerodynamically, and that would be a lot easier to get to orbit than a ship with flaps and fins and aerodynamic uncertainties. Now, of course, we've seen it fly before. We've seen a ship with flaps and fins fly quite successfully before, but only to 10,000 meters, not all the way through the ionosphere and stuff like that, and also on top of a stacked Starship. There may be some aerodynamic uncertainties with that, or maybe the FAA is just concerned about aerodynamic uncertainties with that configuration, and they would prefer to see a simpler stripped down Starship with a bullet-like upper stage launched first, just to demonstrate that a simpler ship aerodynamically can work before they try to get more ambitious. Richard, thank you so much for the 10 quid. It means a lot to me. It really does. You guys are making a huge difference. Boy, we have lots of people watching. Obviously, a popular topic right now, and I don't blame you. Super excited about what's happening, regardless of what comes up. So once again, we have many possibilities here. We have the possibility that S26 or S27 are some kind of refueling depot prototypes that wouldn't need to come back to Earth. Therefore, no flaps or fins required. Just the maximum amount of space.
That's for damage.
I'm sorry, come again, producer.
Everybody's worried that launching multiple ships might damage one or the other. Maybe they're putting them down there as expendable to test if there is any damage when they launch a lot.
Yeah, that's another thing to concern. It could be test articles of when they do a takeoff or something like that to determine what sort of damage is experienced by other rockets that may be in the same area. That also, I would say, is possible, that they serve a much more basic purpose than what we may be thinking. Once again, this is just a hunch on my part, but it does make sense that if you are going to be heading to orbit and you want to just, the first objective is just to get Starship to orbit, just get it into a position to where it's capable of deploying, Starlink V2 satellites, which is a very important thing for the future of SpaceX. Let's do that first. And you don't need flaps, you don't need fins. All you need is just, essentially a big bullet, which is what S26 and S27 are. Or, like I say, lunar Starship prototypes or refueling depot prototypes of some kind. Once again, many, many possibilities. And again, I acknowledge that it's also very possible that B7 and S24 may be the ships heading to orbit. I just don't think so. I think we've had some improvements made to B9 and to S26, S27, modifications made to those ships to improve them. And I think that for your first orbital launch, you want your best ship, your most modern ship, your ship that has the best modifications, that gives it the maximum chance of success, rather than going with something older. SpaceX is more than happy to throw things away if they're not working properly, and to go with something better and something newer. They don't get attached to any particular vessel, any particular design. If there's an indication that an improved design is going to work better, then that's what they're going to use, and to hell with everything else. SpaceX, and that's one of the reasons why they're so successful, because they go with that method of, trial and error, but going with the best solution that trial and error presents to you. Tough thing indeed. The timing and previous successful static by S24 for the first launch. Yeah, and that could be, Stephen. But once again, I don't know. I think there's a good chance that these ships, if they are design worthy, if they feel that they are flight worthy, could go through a WDR and a static fire very quickly, perhaps in 2 consecutive days, and then fly I mean, I think that they are more than capable of doing things that fast. Jeff, thank you. My God, what a huge amount of support. Deeply appreciate that. Josh, thank you so much. My God, you guys are coming through in a huge way today. And let me tell you, it makes a huge difference to my channel, just massive on every level. Thank you so much. Once again, to remind everybody, in about 10 minutes, we are going to have the premiere of my new video about Blue Origin, about the Blue Alchemist innovation, the new project that Blue Origin has been working on in secret for the last 2 years. And as much of a hard time as I give Blue Origin, as much as Jeff Bezos pisses me off, as harsh as I've been on that company for all these years, I'll tell you, this is an exciting innovation that could really transform a lot of stuff when it comes to spaceflight and even the future of our civilization. If it lives up to its potential, that's a big if. But if it does, that a lot could be accomplished. And once again, this came as a big surprise to me. I had the slightest idea that Blue Origin had been working on anything this ambitious. And not only have they made a lot of progress, it seems like they've come close to perfecting the process, and that's impressive indeed. So, getting back once again to Starship, again, I just want to re-emphasize what's important about all of this is not whether or not S-24 goes to orbit, or S-27, S-26, whatever, or B-9 or B-7. All of that is irrelevant. What's important is the fact that SpaceX has demonstrated that they are capable of churning these things out on a very short timetable. It's amazing. Nobody else can churn out rockets this fast. And their ability to do that is just simply astonishing. But once again, absolutely necessary. If you're going to maintain the kind of launch cadence that you're going to need to refuel a Starship in orbit in a short amount of time, or to support Mars missions, lunar missions, etc., or just to launch every single day, you're going to need the ability to build new rockets on a regular basis. Joe, thank you so much for the $5. Really appreciate that. How did you know I like to use chopsticks? Thanks. I really do appreciate that. So that's what's important. Not which of these ships actually goes to orbit or which booster they end up using or why, but rather, their amazing ability to churn these ships out so fast and so effectively. That's something that nobody else can do. ULA at some point is going to have to get somewhere close to this if they're going to live up to their obligations. They're having to deploy the vast majority of the Kuiper constellation with Vulcan Centaur. The only way they're going to be able to do that is to launch at least 26 Vulcan Centaurs every year, minimum. ULA hasn't come anywhere close to that capability up to this point. So, somehow they're going to have to figure that out. They are ramping up their production capabilities, but SpaceX are the ones who are setting the standard, right? They're the ones who are showing everybody else how it's done, and they've been doing this for a very long period of time. So that's our big takeaway from all this. Once again, I think it's very possible that S-24 B7 could indeed be the pairing that goes to orbit. Once again, I don't believe so. Rodney, thank you so much for the $20 New Zealand. Really, really do appreciate it. I think SpaceX is going to go with the latest and the greatest, which is going to be B9, maybe S-26, S-27, or maybe S-25. But they're going to go with the pairing that has the most up-to-date modifications. That's just my opinion, though. I could very well be wrong about that. Regardless of what happens, there's exciting stuff happening in Boca Chica right now, not just for an orbital launch, but everything to come. Obviously, SpaceX is thinking very much about the future, not just getting Starship to orbit, but also what's going to come after that. How are they going to make Starship from a test article right now into a fully functional vehicle that launches all the time, deploying payloads in low Earth orbit, and also a a ship that travels to the moon, lands astronauts on the surface of the moon, to be a reliable HLS system, and also, most importantly, a ship that takes the human race to Mars. They're thinking about all of those things now, and we're seeing all of those thought processes going into place and becoming a tangible, real thing at Boca Chica. And there are few things more exciting in the world than that. Once again, guys, please stay tuned. You're going to automatically be transitioned to the premiere of my video about the new Blue Origin innovation, Blue Alchemist. Really exciting. The first exciting thing that I've ever talked about, I think, with Blue Origin. Came as a total shock to me, a very pleasant surprise, to be honest. So please stay tuned for that. And until we finally reach that incredible and historically significant day when Starship takes to orbit, I urge all of you to stay angry about space.